Hey, Brad, how do you kind of evaluate what you guys were able to do today, and how does it compare to what you hope to do?
Yeah, absolutely. Extremely happy with the guys that we selected tonight. Obviously, starting off with Jackson Holliday and what he brings to the table as far as a fundamentally sound player with hit, power tools, and plate discipline. And we also got a guy in Max Wagner with significant raw power to all fields, on base skills, and also the ability to play a solid third base. And then we also got the two outfielders in Dylan Beavers and Judd Fabian, as far as possessing a unique trait as far as power and speed. So we're really happy about our return this evening, and we got a late night, obviously, and we're going to get back at it early tomorrow morning.
Next up is Rich Dubroff with BaltimoreBaseball.com.
Hey, Brad. Fabian was somebody that you were interested in last year. Were you surprised that you were able to get him this year?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I've learned over my last 4 drafts here with Mike and Sig is to ultimately never have any expectations. So there's always elements of surprise. Obviously ecstatic that he was there at 67, and really happy that he ultimately ended up in orange and black.
Steve Molesky with MASN.
Brad, a couple similarities the 3 college players have are big homer numbers and pretty good walk strikeout rates. Is that by design, or did it just kind of work out that way?
Yeah, those are always traits that we kind of key in on as far as on the analytic front. So you can kind of say that those guys are kind of our flavor in terms of what we're looking for from an offensive profile.
John Mioli, maximizing playoff odds.
Brad, kind of along those lines, you guys are 3 or 4 years into this. How much does the success that guys in the system have that are certain kinds of hitting profiles factor into the decision to bring those types of players into the organization with these key picks?
Yeah, I would say that it's a pretty big factor. One thing that I've always kind of talked about is our involvement with our player development coaches. We get a lot of their feedback specifically with our hitting coaches as far as what we're looking for swing wise, plate discipline wise. So I would say that in terms of having a blueprint, we do kind of look for those things in conjunction working with our player development department.
Zach Silver, MLB.com.
Brad, kind of along that line with Beavers. I mean, he has some quirky sort of hitting mechanics, but when you guys sort of talk with him and work with him, I guess you still see some raw things that are able to obviously project well within there. Yeah, absolutely. I think we're really intrigued about Dylan's unique ability to, as far as power and speed combination, and we think there's more power in the tank there, especially when we get him on a pro strength and conditioning program. We think that we're going to see the power numbers tick up, and we also think we can help him as far as his contact rates are concerned as well. So pretty optimistic on that front, and can't wait to ultimately get him into camp.
Dan Connolly, The Athletic.
Brad, 4 picks, no pitchers. What did you see? Were you close at all to selecting pitchers? And what do you see from rounds 3 to 10? What do you see as far as targets there?
Yeah, I know you guys probably aren't going to believe me, but we actually did have a couple pitchers that were picked right before throughout the evening. And I am telling the truth there, but that's unfortunately the way the ball bounces. Obviously, we are going to continue to look for the best players available tomorrow. And we do have a lot of pitchers on our board, so hopefully we'll be able to net a couple of those guys. But bottom line is we're looking for the best player available regardless of position.
Andy Koska, Baltimore Sun.
Hey, Brad, interested about Max Wagner for a second. What did you kind of see from him in the jump as a freshman to sophomore year in terms of obviously a lot more playing time, but what was his biggest jump?
Yeah, I would say the thing with Max, and we talked and we had a Zoom with him, the last week, we talked about his adversity and struggles as a freshman, and he really harped on the consistency as far as his approach day in, day out. He kind of figured out himself and what he needed to do to be best prepared. And obviously it translated really well as far as across the board, not only with the home run numbers, the performance of the plate, but also in the field as well. So we always kind of look for guys that ultimately maybe have gone through some adversity, have struggled a little bit, because we think that translates really well at the next level, that they're able to bounce back. And I guess, so to speak, when they get in the minor leagues and they're punching them out, they know how to respond.
Nathan Ruiz, Baltimore Sun.
Brad, what was the process of scouting Jackson like from your perspective? And along those lines, what ultimately led to him being the guy?
Sure. So going back to last summer, we saw Jackson quite a bit. We saw him at East Coast Pro, Team USA, area codes, and we all kind of noticed just how fundamentally sound he was. The one thing that we thought he needed to work on was getting stronger. And lo and behold, fast forward this spring, we saw him and he had added a lot of strength. He was actually a little bit faster than he was the year prior. And we were really just blown away about the total complete player that he had, turned into. He'd always had the plate discipline skills we were looking for, but he was significantly stronger. And I know a lot of people, not to draw a direct comparison, but it's very similar to Gunnar Henderson's maturation as a player when we saw him, going from his summer into high school senior year into the spring. So there are a lot of parallels there, and we're really excited about what his future holds and ecstatic to get him at 1.
Steve Molesky.
2 quickies on Fabian. A, does he have any eligibility left? And obviously that impacts signability. And B, are there any concerns about a batting average that's 239?
Yeah, as far as the eligibility and signability is concerned, I won't comment on that because obviously that, we still are negotiating on some things, but not concerned as far as the batting average is concerned. He did cut down on his strikeout rate this past year. So we're really excited about that. He was able to do that. And he's always been able to draw walks and get on base. So the unique combination of on-base skills, drawing walks, power, and the ability to play center field is what really excites us about him.
John Mioli.
In terms of top picks, it seems like Jackson was a little different in that he wasn't, a big part of your winter meetings and kind of came onto the scene late. How did that change the process of weighing his candidacy as the spring wore on?
Sure. I mean, I think the one thing that we always are prepared to do is keep an open mind. We cast a wide net, even if we are picking at the top of the draft like we were this year. And as soon as the spring started, I got a lot of phone calls from the guys that were in there, obviously starting with Ken Guthrie and Jim Richardson, who patrol North Texas, Oklahoma, and the Midwest for us. And then I had a few of our scouts from the West Coast see him in Arizona. And the reviews and reports that came in were about the same. Very high ceiling, a lot of excitement. And whenever you have whenever you have guys that have been doing this a long time and you get those reports in the system with those tool grades and those comments, you have to pay attention. So the moment those reports came in, it was basically a full pivot, and we devote a lot of our attention to him leading all the way up to the end of his year at Stillwater High School.
Our last question is from Hannah Kaiser with Yahoo Sports.
Hey, so you have the top draft pick in a year where you also had the top prospect. I'm sort of curious, what do you see as sort of the Orioles' success in the draft of the past couple seasons? Like, what's made this sort of such an effective means of turning the organization around?
Obviously, the blueprint Mike and Sig brought over from Houston is a big part of that. The information that is accessible to us now, we just never really had before. I would also say that we are very well prepared. We're organized from the first, scrimmages coming into the spring all the way until fall ball. So I would say a combination of having all the data available to us, communication, effective logistics, and resource planning has kind of allowed us to ultimately get to this point. And clearly our player development coaches do a tremendous job as well on that side of the operation. So I think it's a culmination of all those things.